In a world that often pressures people to be agreeable, accommodating, and always available, learning to say no is a powerful skill. For high-value women, those who know their worth, respect their time, and prioritize their well-being, setting boundaries is not just a preference, it's a necessity. Boundaries define what you will and will not accept in relationships, work, and daily interactions. They protect your energy, ensure your needs are met, and prevent others from taking advantage of your kindness. Yet, many women struggle with saying no due to fear of disappointing others, being seen as difficult, or feeling guilty for prioritizing themselves. The truth is, setting boundaries does not make you selfish, it makes you self-aware. When you establish clear limits, you communicate to others that your time, emotions, and personal space are valuable. Without boundaries, you may find yourself overcommitted, drained, or resentful, constantly giving while receiving little in return. This can lead to unhealthy relationships, burnout, and a loss of self-identity. High-value women understand that saying no is not rejection, it is self-respect. One of the biggest misconceptions about setting boundaries is that it creates conflict. In reality, boundaries improve relationships by fostering mutual respect and understanding. When you set and uphold your limits, the right people will respect them, while those who only sought to take advantage will naturally fade away. This process may be uncomfortable at first, but it ultimately leads to stronger, healthier connections. Whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or professional settings, mastering the art of saying no allows you to maintain control over your life. It enables you to focus on what truly matters, prioritize your goals, and surround yourself with people who appreciate and respect you. In this guide, we will explore why setting boundaries is necessary, the psychology behind why people respect a strong no, and practical strategies for saying no without guilt. By embracing the power of boundaries, you will cultivate confidence, gain respect, and create a life that aligns with your values. Number 1. Why setting boundaries is not selfish, but necessary. Many people hesitate to set boundaries because they fear being seen as selfish, unkind, or difficult. However, the truth is that boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships, protecting your well-being, and ensuring that your time and energy are spent on things that truly matter. Far from being an act of selfishness, setting boundaries is a necessary practice that allows you to show up as your best self, for yourself and for others. One of the biggest misconceptions about boundaries is that they push people away. In reality, boundaries strengthen relationships by fostering mutual respect and understanding. When you communicate your limits clearly, you set expectations that help avoid misunderstandings, resentment, and burnout. Without boundaries, you may find yourself constantly overextending, giving more than you can handle, and feeling drained as a result. This often leads to frustration and emotional exhaustion, which can negatively impact your relationships. Boundaries are particularly important when dealing with people who tend to take advantage of kindness. If you always say yes out of obligation or fear of disappointing others, you may end up being manipulated, undervalued, or taken for granted. Learning to say no without guilt allows you to prioritize your needs without feeling responsible for managing other people's emotions. The reality is, people who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries, while those who only seek to benefit from your lack of them will likely be frustrated. Either way, setting boundaries reveals who truly values you and who only values what you can offer. In professional settings, boundaries are just as crucial. Many people struggle with overworking, responding to emails at all hours, or taking on tasks beyond their capacity because they fear saying no will make them look uncooperative. However, having clear professional boundaries prevents burnout and increases efficiency by allowing you to focus on your responsibilities without unnecessary distractions. When you set limits on your workload and working hours, you are not being difficult. You are protecting your mental health and ensuring long-term productivity. Additionally, boundaries contribute to emotional well-being and self-respect. When you allow others to cross your boundaries without consequence, you send yourself the message that your needs and feelings are not important. Over time, this can lead to low self-esteem, anxiety, and an overall sense of dissatisfaction. On the other hand, when you enforce boundaries, you reinforce the belief that you are worthy of respect and that your well-being matters. This not only improves your self-confidence, but also attracts people who respect and appreciate you for who you are. Another important aspect of boundary setting is that it teaches people how to treat you. If you don't communicate your limits, others will assume you are comfortable with whatever they impose on you. By clearly stating your boundaries, you create an environment where respect is the standard, not the exception. This benefits not just you, but also those around you, as it encourages healthier and more balanced relationships. In the end, setting boundaries is an act of self-care, self-respect, and emotional intelligence. It allows you to protect your time, energy, and mental well-being while fostering relationships built on mutual respect. By embracing the necessity of boundaries, you create a life where you are in control of your own happiness, rather than being at the mercy of others' expectations. Number 2. The psychology behind why people respect a strong no. Understanding why people respect a strong no requires looking at human psychology, social dynamics, and the principles of confidence and self-worth. At its core, a firm no signals self-respect, decisiveness, and emotional intelligence, traits that naturally command respect from others. When you confidently decline something, whether in personal relationships or professional settings, you demonstrate that you have clear values, priorities, and boundaries. People respect this because it shows that you are not easily swayed, manipulated, or pressured into situations that do not serve you. One psychological principle behind this respect is the law of scarcity. When something is readily available, people tend to take it for granted, but when it is rare or exclusive, its perceived value increases. The same applies to personal boundaries. If you are always available, always saying yes, and never standing firm, people may unconsciously devalue your time and energy. However, when you assertively say no when necessary, you send a message that your time and presence are valuable, making others more likely to appreciate and respect you. Another key factor is social conditioning and dominance dynamics. People naturally look for leadership cues in social interactions. Those who confidently set boundaries and uphold their standards exude a quiet strength that others admire. A strong no is not aggressive or rude. It is simply a declaration of self-awareness and control. Research in psychology suggests that individuals with firm personal boundaries tend to be seen as more trustworthy and reliable. This is because people instinctively trust those who are clear about their needs and limits, rather than those who are overly accommodating or easily influenced. Furthermore, saying no creates a psychological contrast that makes your yes more meaningful. If you agree to everything, your yes loses significance because it appears obligatory rather than intentional. However, when you selectively say yes to things that align with your values and goals, people take your commitments more seriously. This is especially important in work environments, where professionals who establish clear limits tend to be seen as more competent and confident compared to those who constantly overextend themselves. Another reason people respect a strong no is that it signals emotional stability and self-confidence. Many people struggle with rejection and fear saying no because they worry about hurting others or being perceived negatively. However, when someone delivers a no with calmness and clarity, it demonstrates emotional control, a highly respected trait. People are drawn to individuals who are secure in their decisions because it reflects strength of character. In contrast, those who hesitate, over-explain, or apologize excessively when setting boundaries can unintentionally invite pushback or attempts at negotiation. There is also a psychological effect known as reactance, which occurs when people feel their freedom is being restricted. If someone senses weakness or uncertainty in your response, they may instinctively try to push back, believing they can change your mind. However, a confident no removes room for negotiation, reducing the likelihood of unnecessary conflict. It establishes a clear standard and eliminates ambiguity, making interactions smoother and more respectful. In personal relationships, a strong no fosters mutual respect and deeper connection. When you establish limits with friends, family, or partners, you create a foundation of honesty and authenticity. Rather than agreeing to things out of guilt or obligation, you engage in relationships on your own terms. This not only prevents resentment, but also strengthens the quality of your interactions, because people know where you stand and what they can expect from you. Over time, this builds trust and reinforces the idea that you are a person of integrity who honors their own needs. Ultimately, the psychology behind why people respect a strong no comes down to value, confidence, and clarity. When you firmly decline what does not align with your well-being, you show that you are in control of your life. People may not always like hearing no, but they will respect it. The more you practice setting clear boundaries, the more you will attract the right kind of respect, one based on strength, self-awareness, and authenticity. Number 3, how to say no. Without guilt or over-explaining, saying no is a skill that many people struggle with, often because they fear disappointing others, appearing rude, or damaging relationships. However, learning to say no without guilt or over-explaining is essential for maintaining self-respect, setting healthy boundaries, and ensuring that your time and energy are used wisely. The key is to be clear, confident, and concise, while resisting the urge to justify your decision excessively. When you over-explain, you open the door for negotiation, making it easier for others to pressure you into changing your mind. Instead, a simple and firm no can be more effective and respected. One of the most powerful ways to say no without guilt is to reframe your mindset about it. Many people associate saying no with rejection or selfishness, but in reality, it is an act of self-care and self-respect. Every time you say yes to something that does not serve you, you are saying no to your own needs, goals, or priorities. By recognizing that your time and energy are limited resources, you can make more intentional choices about where to invest them. Remind yourself that declining a request does not mean you are a bad person. It simply means you are being mindful of your own well-being. Another important strategy is to keep your response short and direct. A strong no does not require lengthy justifications or apologies. Over-explaining often signals discomfort and uncertainty, making it easier for the other person to challenge or manipulate your decision. Instead of providing excessive reasons, stick to a simple response like, "I appreciate the offer, but I can't commit to that right now," or "I won't be able to do that, but I hope it goes well for you." This approach is polite yet firm, leaving no room for unnecessary negotiation. If you struggle with guilt when saying no, it can be helpful to acknowledge the request while still maintaining your boundary. For example, if someone asks for a favor that you cannot or do not want to do, you can say something like, I understand that this is important to you, but I have other commitments that I need to prioritize. This validates the other person's feelings without making you responsible for fulfilling their request. Acknowledging their needs while standing firm on your decision shows that you respect both yourself and them. Using neutral and non-apologetic language is another essential technique. Many people instinctively say "I'm sorry" when declining something, even when they have nothing to apologize for. Saying no does not require an apology. It is simply a personal decision. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry, but I can't make it," try saying, "I won't be able to attend, but I appreciate the invitation." This small shift in language removes unnecessary guilt while keeping the response respectful. Another effective way to say no without guilt is to offer an alternative, if appropriate. Sometimes you may want to say no to a specific request while still being supportive in a different way. For example, if a friend asks for help moving but you are unavailable, you could say, "I can't help on that day, but I can recommend a great moving service." This keeps the interaction positive while ensuring that you do not compromise your own time and energy. However, it is crucial to only offer alternatives when you genuinely want to. Otherwise, this can turn into another form of over-explaining or guilt-driven compromise. Additionally, practicing assertive body language and tone can make your no more effective. If your words say no, but your tone is hesitant or apologetic, the other person may sense your discomfort and try to persuade you. Instead, maintain eye contact, keep a calm tone, and deliver your response with confidence. The way you communicate your no often determines how it is received. When you sound sure of yourself, people are more likely to accept your decision without pushing back. Lastly, it is important to accept that not everyone will be happy with your boundaries, and that's okay. Some people may try to make you feel guilty or pressure you into changing your mind, but their reaction is not your responsibility. People who genuinely respect you will also respect your ability to say no. Over time, as you become more comfortable with setting limits, you will notice that others begin to take your boundaries more seriously and that you gain a greater sense of control over your own life. Ultimately, learning to say no without guilt or over-explaining is about valuing yourself and your time. The more you practice, the easier it becomes, and the more respect you will earn from those around you. Number 4, the consequences of being a people pleaser. Being a people pleaser might seem like a positive trait at first. It often comes from a place of kindness, a desire to avoid conflict, and the need for approval. However, constantly prioritizing others' needs over your own comes with serious consequences. People pleasers struggle to set boundaries, feel overwhelmed by obligations, and ultimately suffer from emotional exhaustion. When you are always saying yes to others, you are frequently saying no to yourself, which can lead to frustration, burnout, and even resentment. What may start as an effort to maintain harmony and gain validation can quickly turn into a cycle of stress and self-neglect. One of the most damaging effects of being a people pleaser is the loss of self-identity. When you are always accommodating others, you may start to suppress your own desires, opinions, and preferences. Over time, this can make you feel disconnected from yourself, unsure of what you truly want, and constantly seeking external validation to feel worthy. You may find yourself agreeing with others just to avoid disagreement, even when it contradicts your beliefs. This leads to a lack of authenticity, making it difficult to build meaningful relationships because you are not being your true self. People pleasers often feel like they are living for others rather than themselves, which can be deeply unfulfilling. Another major consequence of people-pleasing is chronic stress and burnout. Since people pleasers struggle to say no, they often take on too many responsibilities, even at the cost of their own well-being. Whether it is in personal relationships, work, or social situations, they tend to overcommit, leading to exhaustion and emotional fatigue. The constant pressure to meet others' expectations creates a cycle of stress that can negatively impact mental and physical health. Anxiety, sleep disturbances, headaches, and even weakened immunity are common side effects of carrying an excessive emotional load. When your life revolves around making others happy, there is little room left to take care of yourself. Furthermore, being a people pleaser often attracts toxic and manipulative individuals. When you struggle to set boundaries, some people will take advantage of your kindness and willingness to always say yes. These individuals may guilt trip you, pressure you into doing things you are uncomfortable with, or demand more than they give in return. Because people pleasers fear disappointing others, they may tolerate one-sided relationships where their needs are ignored. Over time, this can lead to emotional abuse, where people exploit their generosity without reciprocating respect or care. Instead of gaining appreciation, people pleasers often find themselves feeling used and unappreciated. In addition to harming relationships with others, people-pleasing damages the most important relationship of all, the one you have with yourself. Constantly seeking approval from others weakens self-confidence and self-worth. When you depend on external validation to feel good about yourself, your self-esteem becomes fragile and dependent on how others perceive you. This means that criticism, rejection, or even indifference from others can feel devastating. Rather than developing inner confidence, people pleasers often feel anxious about whether they are doing enough to be liked. This insecurity can make them more susceptible to manipulation, as they fear that standing up for themselves might cost them acceptance. Another significant downside is that people-pleasing prevents personal growth. When you are too focused on meeting others' expectations, you may hesitate to take risks, pursue your own dreams, or step outside your comfort zone. Fear of disappointing others can lead to missed opportunities, such as avoiding career advancements, creative pursuits, or lifestyle changes that could benefit you. Instead of making decisions based on what truly fulfills you, you may make choices that keep others happy, even if it means staying in an unfulfilling job, relationship, or situation. This limits your potential and keeps you stuck in a cycle of self-sacrifice. Additionally, people pleasers often experience hidden resentment and frustration. While they may appear agreeable and accommodating on the surface, deep down, they often feel taken for granted. Constantly prioritizing others without receiving the same level of care in return can create a buildup of frustration. However, because they fear conflict, they tend to suppress these emotions rather than express them openly. This emotional bottling can eventually lead to passive-aggressive behavior, mood swings, or even explosive outbursts when the pressure becomes too much. What started as an effort to keep the peace can ironically result in damaged relationships and unspoken grievances. Perhaps one of the saddest consequences of people-pleasing is the regret of not living authentically. Many people pleasers wake up one day and realize that they have spent years, even decades, catering to others while neglecting their own happiness. They may look back and regret the times they should have stood up for themselves, pursued their passions, or prioritized their own needs. The realization that they have been living according to others' expectations rather than their own desires can be painful. However, the good news is that it is never too late to break free from people-pleasing tendencies and start living with greater self-respect and authenticity. Breaking the habit of people-pleasing begins with learning to set boundaries, practicing self-care, and valuing your own needs as much as you value others. Saying no does not make you a bad person. It makes you someone who respects themselves. By prioritizing self-worth over external validation, you attract healthier relationships, reduce stress, and cultivate a sense of inner peace. The shift from people-pleasing to self-empowerment may feel uncomfortable at first, but in the long run, it leads to a more fulfilling and authentic life. Number 5. How self-respect attracts the right people. Self-respect is one of the most powerful traits a person can develop. It shapes how you see yourself, how you interact with others, and ultimately, the kind of people you attract into your life. When you carry yourself with dignity and confidence, you naturally draw in individuals who respect and appreciate you. On the other hand, when you lack self-respect, you may find yourself in relationships, both romantic and platonic, that leave you feeling undervalued and unfulfilled. Understanding the connection between self-respect and the quality of your relationships is essential to building a life surrounded by the right people. One of the main reasons self-respect attracts the right people is that it sets the tone for how others treat you. People take cues from how you carry yourself, and if you show that you value and respect yourself, they are more likely to do the same. When you establish clear boundaries, communicate your needs, and refuse to tolerate disrespect, you send a strong message that you are someone worth respecting. This naturally filters out those who seek to manipulate, use, or take advantage of others, leaving space for people who genuinely appreciate you for who you are. Moreover, self-respect creates confidence, which is an attractive trait. People are naturally drawn to those who are secure in themselves, as confidence exudes strength and stability. When you respect yourself, you don't need external validation to feel good. You already recognize your own worth. This inner confidence makes you more appealing to others, whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or professional settings. Confident individuals bring positive energy into a room, and their presence encourages mutual respect and admiration. People who appreciate genuine self-worth will be naturally inclined to connect with you, while those who prey on insecurity will find no opportunity to exploit you. Additionally, self-respect prevents toxic relationships from forming. People who lack self-respect often tolerate poor treatment because they fear being alone or believe they don't deserve better. This leads to situations where they accept emotional neglect, dishonesty, or even manipulation, thinking it's the best they can get. However, when you hold yourself in high regard, you quickly recognize when someone is treating you unfairly, and you are more likely to walk away from toxic dynamics. Instead of chasing people who don't value you, self-respect allows you to attract those who align with your standards and values. A key benefit of self-respect is that it fosters authenticity. When you truly respect yourself, you don't feel the need to change who you are to please others. You are comfortable expressing your thoughts, opinions, and emotions honestly, which in turn attracts people who appreciate the real you. Authenticity strengthens relationships because it allows for deep, meaningful connections rather than surface-level interactions based on pretense. The right people will be drawn to your genuine nature, while those who prefer inauthenticity or control will likely distance themselves. Furthermore, self-respect teaches you to value quality over quantity when it comes to relationships. Instead of seeking approval from a large group of people, you prioritize meaningful connections with individuals who truly add value to your life. People who respect themselves are selective about who they allow into their circle, ensuring that their time and energy are spent on relationships that uplift rather than drain them. This shift in mindset leads to stronger, healthier bonds based on mutual respect, trust, and appreciation. Another crucial aspect of self-respect is that it promotes independence and self-sufficiency. When you rely on your own sense of worth, rather than external validation, you are less likely to seek approval from unhealthy sources. This makes you less susceptible to being manipulated or controlled by others, as you no longer feel the need to compromise your values just to be liked. The right people will admire your independence, and be inspired by your ability to stand on your own, rather than feeling the need to control or take advantage of you. Self-respect also affects how you handle rejection and setbacks. When you respect yourself, you understand that rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It is simply a redirection. Instead of internalizing rejection as a personal failure, you see it as an opportunity to align yourself with people and opportunities that are better suited for you. This resilience is attractive because it shows emotional maturity and self-awareness. People who appreciate strength and stability will be drawn to your ability to handle challenges with grace. Lastly, self-respect creates an environment where healthy love and friendships can flourish. When you respect yourself, you encourage others to treat you with the same level of care and admiration. You inspire those around you to value themselves as well, creating a cycle of mutual respect and support. The right people, those who appreciate kindness, integrity, and self-worth, will naturally be drawn to you because they see in you the qualities they admire and seek in their own lives. In conclusion, self-respect is not just about how you see yourself. It is about setting the foundation for the kinds of relationships you attract. By valuing yourself, setting boundaries, embracing authenticity, and prioritizing quality over quantity, you create space for people who truly appreciate and respect you. The more you respect yourself, the more you naturally draw in those who reflect that same level of respect and admiration. Number 6. Signs that you need stronger boundaries in life. Boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships, self-respect, and emotional well-being. They define what you will and won't tolerate, ensuring that others treat you with the respect you deserve. However, many people struggle with setting boundaries, often realizing too late that they've allowed others to overstep their limits. If you frequently feel overwhelmed, drained, or taken advantage of, it may be a sign that your boundaries need to be stronger. Here are some key indicators that you need to establish firmer boundaries in your life. 1. You constantly feel overwhelmed and drained. If you often feel emotionally and physically exhausted from dealing with people, it's a strong sign that your boundaries are too weak. Saying yes to everything, whether at work, in relationships, or within your social circle, can leave you feeling stretched thin. When you don't set limits on your time and energy, you become an easy target for people who take more than they give. Strengthening your boundaries allows you to protect your well-being and prioritize self-care. 2. You have trouble saying no. One of the clearest signs that your boundaries need work is difficulty saying no without feeling guilty. If you frequently agree to things you don't want to do just to avoid conflict or disappointment, you may be neglecting your own needs. A strong boundary means recognizing that no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone lengthy explanations or justifications for protecting your time and energy. 3. You feel resentful toward others. Resentment often builds up when you allow people to overstep your limits. If you find yourself feeling irritated, frustrated, or bitter about the way others treat you, it could be because you haven't clearly communicated your boundaries. Instead of blaming others for taking advantage of you, take control by setting firm limits and enforcing them consistently. 4. You tolerate disrespect or manipulative behavior. If you frequently excuse or ignore disrespectful behavior from friends, family, or colleagues, it's a red flag that your boundaries need to be stronger. Whether it's someone constantly interrupting you, belittling your opinions, or guilt-tripping you into doing things, allowing this behavior only reinforces it. Strong boundaries help you stand up for yourself and demand the respect you deserve. 5. You struggle with people-pleasing. People-pleasing is a major sign of weak boundaries. If you prioritize making others happy at the expense of your own needs, you may be sacrificing your well-being for the sake of approval. While kindness and generosity are admirable traits, they shouldn't come at the cost of your own happiness. Setting boundaries doesn't mean being unkind. It means ensuring that your kindness is not exploited. 6. You allow others to control your decisions. Do you often let others make decisions for you, even when it goes against what you truly want? If you frequently find yourself doing things to avoid conflict or because someone else insists, your boundaries may be too weak. Strong boundaries empower you to make choices that align with your values and desires, rather than being pressured by external influences. 7. You feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. If putting yourself first makes you feel selfish or guilty, it's a sign that your boundaries need reinforcement. Prioritizing your needs is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of self-respect. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and taking care of yourself ensures that you can show up as your best self for others. 8. You struggle with work-life balance. In professional settings, weak boundaries can lead to overworking, burnout, and being taken advantage of by employers or colleagues. If you find yourself constantly working late, responding to messages outside of work hours, or taking on tasks beyond your responsibilities, it's time to set clearer work-life boundaries. A healthy balance between work and personal life is essential for long-term success and well-being. 9. You frequently feel taken for granted. Do people only reach out to you when they need something? If you feel like you're always giving but rarely receiving, your boundaries may be too weak. Genuine relationships are built on mutual respect and reciprocity. Strengthening your boundaries helps you filter out people who only see you as a convenience rather than a valued individual. 10. You ignore your own needs to please others. If you consistently put your needs, feelings, and well-being on the back burner to accommodate others, you need stronger boundaries. It's important to honor your emotions and prioritize self-care. Healthy relationships should never require you to sacrifice your well-being to keep others happy. How to strengthen your boundaries. If you recognize yourself in these signs, it's time to take action. Strengthening your boundaries starts with self-awareness and self-respect. Here are a few steps to help you. Identify your limits. Take time to reflect on what makes you uncomfortable or drains your energy. Recognizing your limits is the first step in setting boundaries. Practice saying no. Start small by declining requests that don't serve your well-being. Over time, it will become easier to assert yourself without guilt. Communicate clearly. Be direct and firm when expressing your boundaries. You don't need to apologize for valuing yourself. Surround yourself with respectful people. Build relationships with individuals who respect and honor your boundaries. Distance yourself from those who consistently disregard them. Hold yourself accountable. Setting boundaries is one thing, but enforcing them is another. Don't let guilt or fear stop you from maintaining them. By strengthening your boundaries, you protect your energy, self-worth, and emotional health. The right people will respect your limits, and those who don't are not meant to be part of your life. Number 7. Practicing boundary setting in relationships and work boundaries are essential for maintaining balance, self-respect, and healthy relationships in both personal and professional life. Without them, you risk emotional exhaustion, resentment, and being taken advantage of. Learning to set and enforce boundaries is not about shutting people out, but about ensuring mutual respect and maintaining your well-being. Here's how you can practice boundary setting in relationships and work. Boundaries in relationships. Personal relationships thrive on mutual respect and understanding. Whether with family, friends, or romantic partners, Clear boundaries help prevent misunderstandings and emotional drain. 1. Communicate your needs clearly. Many relationship problems stem from unspoken expectations. Be honest about your limits and preferences. Instead of assuming others will automatically respect your boundaries, express them clearly. For example, if you need alone time after work, let your partner or family know, rather than silently resenting interruptions. 2. Say no without feeling guilty. A strong relationship allows space for no. If someone asks for something that makes you uncomfortable, drains your energy, or goes against your values, politely decline. Saying no is not rejection, it's self-care. Healthy individuals will respect your boundaries instead of making you feel guilty for enforcing them. 3. Recognize manipulative behavior. Some people may try to test or violate your boundaries, whether through guilt-tripping, gaslighting, or making you feel obligated to please them. Recognizing manipulation is key to standing firm. If someone repeatedly ignores your limits, consider whether the relationship is truly healthy. 4. Protect your emotional energy. Not everyone deserves unrestricted access to your emotions and time. If certain people constantly drain your energy with negativity, drama, or excessive demands, it's okay to limit how much time and attention you give them. Distance yourself from toxic dynamics and prioritize relationships that uplift you. 5. Set digital boundaries. Technology has blurred the lines between personal and social life. If you feel pressured to respond to messages immediately or engage in social media interactions that don't serve you, establish digital boundaries. For example, you can set specific times for checking messages and avoid responding to work emails outside of office hours. Boundaries in work. A lack of boundaries at work can lead to burnout, decreased productivity, and dissatisfaction. Establishing professional limits ensures that your job enhances your life rather than controlling it. 1. Define your work hours. One of the biggest boundary violations in the workplace is the expectation of being available 24/7. If your job requires you to work overtime regularly without compensation or appreciation, it's time to assert your work hours. Communicate when you are available and stick to it. 2. Learn to say no to extra work. Many employees struggle with declining additional responsibilities for fear of appearing uncooperative. However, constantly saying yes to extra tasks can lead to stress and burnout. If you are already overwhelmed, it's okay to push back. A polite but firm response such as, "I'd love to help, but my current workload won't allow me to take this on," sets a clear boundary. 3. Avoid toxic work environments. If your workplace fosters toxic behaviors like gossiping, bullying, or unrealistic expectations, set boundaries by not engaging in unhealthy dynamics. Maintain professionalism and don't allow yourself to be dragged into unnecessary drama. If the environment is consistently harmful, consider seeking new opportunities. 4. Protect your personal time. Work should not consume your entire life. If your job constantly interferes with your personal time, address it with your manager or HR. Avoid checking emails and messages outside of work hours unless absolutely necessary. Your personal life deserves as much attention as your career. 5. Address boundary violations directly. If a colleague or supervisor repeatedly disregards your boundaries, whether by overloading you with tasks, disrespecting your time, or making inappropriate requests, address it professionally. Be assertive but respectful in explaining your limits and the need for mutual respect. How to strengthen your boundaries in relationships and work. Identify your limits. Understand what behaviors or expectations make you uncomfortable or stressed. Practice assertive communication. Be direct yet respectful when setting boundaries. You don't need to justify or apologize for them. Stay consistent. Setting a boundary once isn't enough. You must reinforce it consistently. Recognize healthy versus unhealthy reactions. People who respect you will honor your boundaries, while those who push back may not have your best interests at heart. Seek support, if needed. If setting boundaries is difficult, consider seeking guidance from a mentor, coach, or therapist. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It's an act of self-respect that benefits both you and those around you. In relationships, they promote healthy connections, while in work, they ensure a sustainable and fulfilling career.